youth unemployment. We are blessed to be with Honorable Obiga Laws. She is the woman representative, Terego District. She gave the first solid, I call it the solid submission, entailing on how, what has happened, what has gone wrong, and what should be done. I took note of a number of points, those who just joined us, and she referred to mindset change. Agriculture is not a punishment. Protection of the youth, or improving the youth behavior, character that is relating with the issue of avoiding abuse of drugs. And of course, even there is another one, the practice of betting as a solution to employment. And again, she was very much concerned about, the role she's playing on a committee in Parliament, the Human Rights Committee, and seriously working against the human rights abuses, especially the sexual harassment that has been reported either within the country and especially abroad for those who are exploited as laborers and workers, and they end up turning into sexual workers. She also was concerned about the indecent employment. I was very much also grateful with the submission of Mr. Alex Muhezi, who is the banker and investment specialist. And she was bringing in the ideals, what could have been done after realizing the situation at hand, what could have been done, and what has caused all this situation, the current predicament where we see our, good citizens, our young ones, the younger generation being interested to the extent of selling, and then they go for export, labor. We will continue with that interaction, and I would like to first invite you, Mr. Alex, for one more, just in the first 5 minutes to conclude what you had, and then we interact on that, and Honorable will take on from there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Joseph. This issue we are talking about, it's very critical that it is addressed, because it affects economic development and expansion of our economy. When you look at the countries we call superpowers, take an example of Japan, take an example of China. They have heavily invested in vocational training and skilling. We are not short of knowledge and ideas. What we are short of as a country is applied knowledge. And applied knowledge can only be sourced through vocational training. So we, as a country, we need to focus heavily on skills enhancement through vocational training. Most of the market for these vocational courses, the market is there. I'm sure each one of us seated in this room, you use a chair by one of the boys nearby home. You go to a garage on a daily basis if possible. And these are skills that are acquired through vocational training. You go to India. India has invested so much in what I would call cottage industries. At least every home in India has some kind of, there's something they produce to the market. And this production is possible if we have invested in skilling people with vocational training. For example, producing juice, manufacturing yogurt at home, mechanics, carpentry. So these are areas that we need to focus on. Painters, I'm sure there are no professional schools you go to and they will teach you painting, but you can go to a vocational school, you are taught painting, and I can tell you, as long as the world has not come to an end, there will be market for painting. There will be market for example, mechanics. So these are areas where we need to focus on. Once we have focused, once we have established vocational institutions across the country. We have students going through these institutions. We are graduating them. How do we support them to start their own enterprises?
Mr. Alex, as we go bit by bit, because we like to satisfactorily, analyze these issues and look at, for instance, as I bring this back to you, all this is very well stated and even laid down in the government policy documents. And it is always the good language that everyone can be able to communicate, especially as per the awareness that we intend to possess. What is causing the delay to implement this? And always I've found out that some countries which have taken off, even others which are trying to run faster, almost take off from us. And the neighborhood, you go to Kenya, you go to South Africa, you go even here in Africa continent. It seems we are slow. I don't know. I will just seek maybe expression of an opinion on how can we, number one, we are not taking off as expected. Vocational technical schools, I know it has been in the manifesto, but the allocation of funds to implement it, which is already known, seems to be taking time. The constituency personally comes from Rwanda constituency. I don't have any vocational, I've not seen any vocational institution. That's one. Number two, another gap I would like to identify for intervention that we continue to emphatically state. We also know that there seems to be lack of awareness to the community, especially to the very youth. Someone finished senior 6, someone finished senior 4, and others even have not gone well even to senior 2 because vocational training does not require to first have a degree. And even if you had a degree, because you were talking about China, still there is supposed to be having a policy in place which shows that you are not yet a graduate if you don't have a skill. What is your take on that? After that submission?
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that comment. Yes, it's true. We have well documented policies that speak to these issues that we are talking about this evening. The preparation is okay. We have challenges with the delivery of these programs. And for example, how you measure commitment to implementation of a program is what level of financing are you extending to this program? I'm fortunate enough to be sitting with one of the members who appropriate resources in this country. Look at how much money are we extending to these issues. Look at the budget. You will be surprised, about over 30% of our budget goes to consumption, development. And then another significant portion of our budget is going to debt financing. So you find that actually little money is left for real results, for real programs that impact positively on these issues that we're talking about. And then of course we cannot isolate this issue we're talking about from politics. Most of these programs have been politicized. If my friend, honorable member of parliament, lives here and he goes to Terego and she starts a youth skilling program, I can assure you it will be disrupted. It will be indirectly fought because someone thinks this is an entry point in certain areas to solidify her hold on her seat. So we need to speak to the issues of governance, the issues of politics, because there is a lot of talk in this country, but less on action. And I think for me, one thing I can say is that, you see, if you have worked in a place for a very long time, a time comes and somehow some level of inaction steps in. So the country is in a state where we need some kind of rebooting. If I may borrow that word from IT specialists, there's some need of rebooting all our entire systems because there's some bit of complacency that has taken over. we have adopted this approach that every time, for example, youth raise issues to do with youth unemployment, youth exploitation, youth inequality, the quickest solution is give them money. Advance them money, they will keep quiet. And that is not taking this country anywhere. So we need to look at these policies that we have drafted, we have approved as a country, allocate resources, quickly allocate resources to these programs and implement them. Because we are not going to grow this economy if these policies remain on paper. I have told you here before that the moment you neglect the youth, the moment you neglect the young people, you are depriving your country of quality, experienced and competent human capital.
Thank you.
And this is a very key resource in economic development.
That's very right. And I'm in agreement with you, and you clearly stated it. That's the way to go. And Honorable, we continue with our discussion as Mr. Alex addresses it. The issue remains on. I will just take you to one of the program. It happens to be, I was one of the implementers of NAS program. I was a civil servant some years back, around 2006. I was a senior assistant secretary in a local government. And I watched what was happening. Partly, me, who was an accounting officer, by the grace of God, I exhibited, the spirit of accountability and integrity. I could try to deliver what's there, because the implementation process has many challenges. But one of it now that we seem, as I emerge from NAD's program, I've left some other programs to parish development model, the famous one, which is currently the song of the day. It looks to be implemented, and the previous program which you implemented, by first not doing what we call, the categorization and the trainings, to know that in this category, if it is maybe Telego youth, for them, when you train them this is what they can do best. What is your take, and how can we do it best? Because we want to intervene, we want to see government intervening and limit the current unemployment and labor exploitation.
Thank you. I would say that we have not lost the dream. We can still reach where we want to be. But most importantly, I think what we should do is number one priority. Before we even invest there, we should do mindset change.
Okay.
You see, when you're in prison and the next punishment to a prisoner is to take you in the car and then you go and dig. Just as my brother has said, farming should now be for a business, not for just
for food.
For food, no. And I can tell you, with farming, you can do a lot. Many people have changed their lives. And skilling the youth is very, very paramount. You can do a lot online. Now, look at a district like Telego that does not have electricity. Somebody says electricity will be there this year, and then says, no, we can have electricity everywhere in 2030. Really, what comes in the minds of these Ugandans who are given responsibility in various offices, shifting responsibility, they are not committed. Because when you say in Europe, this is my target, by this time it should be done, they work day and night. But sluggishness, arrivalism, people just being, I've arrived now, I'm a district cow, accountant, I sit in Ministry of Energy, and so what? That lack of heart for the most rural. And also the people in the rural areas, this thing of giving so much during campaigns. And somebody gives you 2,000 and then you take a local alcohol and you say, I'm okay. Then what happens tomorrow? People must be taught to work and work hard. Immediately after elections, I told my people, it's now not elections, it's time to work. Even as I'm seated here, I'm busy distributing over 280,000 seedlings. Because by 5 years, I should hit a target not less than 1.5 to 2 million seedlings within the community. But how many MPs are willing to do this? How many people down there want to change the lifestyle? You can see the rainfall pattern. Just to tell a youth, if you plant 20 trees here, in the next 10, 15 years, the giant lira or avocado, you'll be selling. They don't need much capital, something small, fene, during
you have brought an important issue. I want us to utilize it in addressing what we are intending to discuss. The role of leaders. You know, as you are doing, I'm picking it. So the role of leaders, I see you, of course, the role of a member of parliament, you are doing extra duty.
Yeah.
Extra duty.
Because we are told poverty.
Yes, you are against poverty, community responsibility to make sure that your people can earn a living.
But it's also an indicator that some of the system is not working.
Yes, and that's what I'm...
Must you wait until the whole thing collapses on you and you die under it?
We are saying this is appreciation. And now while we are doing that, I don't know whether there is a bridge or a network being built while doing that, because right now you are here, you've distributed the seedlings. I don't know, because you do a supervisory role when you reach over there. A team spirit.
I have a team that does
to know that the local government leaders, they are mandatorily following up, networking with them, and using the budget they have, and also your support, your community support you have given, and also to look at the connection with the religious leaders, because the reason why this problem has happened of having unemployment, the youth unemployment, we seem to have uncoordinated stakeholders. The role of leaders, that's what I'm intending to talk about. Do you think you have satisfactorily addressed that gap?
Yeah, most importantly, before I do anything, I reach out to my district chair. It's so difficult. You see, you have a population of over 400,000 people. Now, you can't reach these people one by one. And if we do collective effort, you push the community to the wall, that we must do this. If you don't do it, you speak one language. Like, can we have all the pregnant girls back to school the way they are, whether you are 4 months pregnant, whether you are 7 months pregnant? You know, the COVID situation has really killed our communities. Actually, we don't have any more girls maybe to marry as virgins, if there are very few. They say, Gunu, there are no more virgins, but all the same, we are happy.
We are having a challenge also in the streets, as you are aware. These are also part of the youth. And I think something that I pray that you will take on. I'm always appealing to members of parliament who come over here, the Karamoja young children. They are flooding here at the age of 13. Immediately you see one is pregnant, produce. All these are issues.
And everyone must be responsible for his or her constituency. There's no need for you to say, okay, my legislative role, my appropriation role. When you find a baggage, if it is difficult to isolate, pick everything and go. Pick, learn to stand for your people. I cannot thank the people of Terego enough. If it were possible that I give it all and they really arrive at where I want. Like now I'm telling them, having a grass-thatched house is a sign of poverty, backwardness, and ignorance. Can you as an individual start collecting money? Like you put 1,000 or 2,000 per week. Now, if you have 300 people, of course our villages have a population of not less than 300 people. And if everyone come together, now 300 people, I have parishes which have 10 to 20 villages. One parish has 20 villages. Now do 20 times 300 people. It's a lot. Now, if you are giving this parish development model money to Terego, which has a parish of 20 villages, and each village with 300 people. Honestly, what impact will I have? So I have to think outside the box. You know, I still say adults, as you produce a child, remain responsible for this child. We must take the mantle head-on collusion. I do not disagree with labor export, no, I don't. But how are we doing it? We must have coordination. That's why I was talking about Canada, Australia, where they go to work during holiday. it also causes mindset change. I sincerely condemn corruption. This untold corruption, it's worse than.
Thank you. We are going to be going for a commercial break, but back to conclude on the issue of labor export. We find out that the government, the Ministry of Labor, they have not taken keen, and the ministry, I will hold the two institutions in my critical analysis. The migration office, they grant passport, which is okay, and of course with the processing of the travels, but as well the Ministry of Labor, to determine that this is the kind of labor. You know, when this, like the other day, we were very proud to know, is it Chepter Guy, who won the sports medal, gold medal. Equally, I could expect, and it's something which is policy with a restriction. I pray that you take it up to know which kind of labor that we are allowing to go. Because you see, there must be what we call government protection and streamlining. Because we are talking of protecting the nation of Uganda, how we appear in the outside the community, outside the global world. So may you conclude on that as we go maybe for the commercial break, and we'll build on that. Something is lacking.
Yeah, a lot. You know, in Uganda we have the best laws. Those that have small gaps, we need to patch quickly. Even punitive action against people who abuse labor. By the way, let me tell you, it's not only when they go to Arab world they abused. No, even here. How about the house helps? They eat maybe under the veranda. They are not treated as human.
They're not given an appointment later.
Nothing.
You come,
the payment is so low. They work in people's gardens here. Every other week, people from Terego who are in Kampala here, maybe in districts within Central and Western, I'm called, I've not been paid. I've lost so many in Lugazi, Kinyara, Kakira. Before I left for Canada, I first had to go to Lugazi and Kinyara. And by next week, I want to find myself in Kakira. What is happening? If you can't treat them well, leave them. Leave them, don't bring them, and then you fail to pay them on time.
Thank you. So, we are going for a commercial break, and I will ask you that you ensure that your labor officer helps to do a bigger work.
That's why I'm saying Ministry of Labor is not doing enough.
Thank you.
Because the database of all those who leave this country, where is it?
Thank you, Honorable. Stay tuned there on Smart 24 TV. We go for a commercial break. See you in the next session.